Playoff bound episode, everybody. It's Chad Minton with Max Greenberg. It's Catfish on Ice, episode 229. What's up, Max? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Just been a Sunday, just kind of chilling in my apartment. What about you?
You seem way too chill with our Predators going back to the playoffs. I need you to be hyped now.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm ready to get this thing going. I already got tickets to Game 3, so I'm ready for this.
Oh, you're way ahead of schedule. There you go, man.
I'm hyped up for it.
As everyone knows, I was the paranoid one of the bunch. I was the one that was freaking out like everything. And even in the clinching game against Winnipeg, they were down 3-1. I'm like, here we go again. All this stuff. And then the Preds, I mean, let's just call it like it is. It's a cliche at this point, but we're going to say it. They are the epitome of relentless. They are, and they showcased it. I mean, I know it's a little bit old news now. That was back on Tuesday, but this is our first live episode since then. So let me just quickly touch on that, because the fact that they did that, they were against a Jets team that is unstoppable right now.
Right. Yeah.
And the Jets had plenty to play for. And we had Brian Finlayson, co-host of the Level Flight podcast, on the previous episode that you can go watch on our YouTube channel right now. Great conversation with him to talk Preds and Winnipeg Jets and both of those teams in the playoffs. So that was good. So go watch that. Great guest that we had on the show. But that was like one of the most impressive wins of the season for me, or even though it was an overtime loss, one of the most impressive showings for a third period, I should say, because the Predators could have just been like, you know what, we're good. The math is overwhelmingly in our favor, but they played like it was winning you're in that setting against the Jets.
No, they absolutely did. And it was one of those games where, the Preds might have lost the game, but the way everyone walked out of that game, everyone was happy. It didn't feel like a loss at all. And then you see the games against Chicago and Columbus. You already clinched the playoffs, but this team is still on a mission, and doesn't matter if they're playing anyone, whether they should win the game or they shouldn't. They're going to continue to take it to you. And last night against Columbus and Friday night against Chicago teams, and sometimes the mark of a good team is beating the teams you should, but also beating teams you should. Well, the Preds also can beat the teams they should. So doesn't matter what the team is.
We're going to get deeper into the most recent games, because after the playoffs are clinched, you really wondered, how would the Predators respond? Because they have been playing like their hair is on fire for the past, what is it now, coming up on 2 months. They've been playing like they're going to get eliminated at any moment. They've been playing with that desperation, that relentless style that they have adopted, basically. And I personally wondered, how are they going to look against Chicago, a bottom feeder of the league? God, I love saying that, by the way. Let me just pause and say that again. Bottom feeder Chicago. Yes.
Amazing, right?
Good to say. Feels really good to say. But anyway, so I wondered.
Second consecutive number 1 overall pick, then we're not laughing much longer.
Well, yeah, and Connor Bedard is who he is. He's a great player. He is as good as advertised. But that does feel good to say. But yeah, I wondered, how were they really going to enter that game? Were they maybe going to have the normal human reaction, because they are humans, and just maybe come into that game a little lackadaisical, maybe like a little with their foot off the gas a little bit? Maybe rest some players. I brought that up as well. How many players are they going to rest?
They did a little.
They did. Yeah, they did. Ryan McDonough was a big one.
Yep.
That they rested, which I'm totally fine with. Yeah. That guy will be totally ready for game 1, whether you rest him or not. Don't worry about rust. But I wondered, and I mean, we'll break it down more, but I'm getting ahead of myself here because I'm so pumped for this live episode, as I'm sure a lot of you are. Thank you for watching live on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Catfish Ice. Hit the follow button if you're enjoying this and want to hit the follow button. Also, comment live. We love getting all the comments. We're getting a lot of them tonight. So let me throw them out there from YouTube as well, our YouTube channel. We don't do Sunday night live episodes very often. Let me tell you, first of all, everybody, me and Max both work full-time jobs outside of just our passion of loving this hockey team. A lot of our passionate and listeners know that. But we do this out of labor of love because we love this team so much. But sometimes life gets in the way and we can't really record on our schedule. But we don't get to do Sunday night episodes very often. And it's kind of fun. I kind of like this.
No, nice, especially when there's no football going on. It's always nice to kind of get something else to do sports-wise. So
I do have to be up very early tomorrow morning, but it's worth it. When we're doing a playoff-bound episode, sleep can come later. Sleep can come later. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Come tomorrow night.
Yeah, exactly. I'll catch up tomorrow night on sleep. We're talking Preds playoffs. Their 16th playoff berth of their franchise's history. And also, another cool nugget, they have the chance to hit the 100-point mark for, let's put it on the bottom of the screen so I make sure I do not screw this up. Pretty sure they're looking for their 8th time in their history of hitting the 100-point threshold.
You would have told me this team was going to hit 100 points this year.
I didn't realize they've hit the 100-point threshold that many times. I think Johnny would have known that easily. He would have answered that question in like half a millisecond.
Right.
But let's catch up on comments real quick. We got it on the screen there on the bottom scrolling. Hit subscribe on YouTube if you're watching. It helps a ton. But we've got some people on here. Mike Twitter, our longtime listener. We love Mike Twitter. He says Sunday Night Live. Yes, it's very rare for us to be a Sunday Night Live edition. Very rare. Maybe one other time I could back when Rich Howe was the co-host. Maybe we did a.
There was a few times I want to say before I was on there. I remember one time it was you when Kyle was also doing it. It was you, Rich, and Kyle.
We might have done a random Sunday, but it didn't happen very often. Buster on YouTube, another loyal listener, says, yo, what's up? Yeah. Buster also says, I got my Game 4 tickets rolling down from Kentucky. Let's
love to see
effing go. Yes. And then let's see. Redemption, who's our buddy Johnny, says, hey, Max will back me up. I always believed they would clinch even through that 3-game losing streak.
Yes, he did.
Yes. So many comments rolling in. We've got Mike Twitter. I'm fresh off my 2 road games. Was in Arizona for the stupid game that broke the point streak. Then in New Jersey of that overtime thriller versus the Devils. All right. And then our friend Maddie. So Maddie is tearing up Pred's Twitter right now. She is putting out all the good stuff. I want to retweet everything she puts about this hockey team out there because she's a great follow. We're going to get her on as a guest very soon when we can make the schedules work. Maybe this week, but she says, music to my ears hearing you say that. Yes, playoff bound we are. And I'll find her Twitter handle so I can make sure everyone knows where to find her. She is awesome. She is one of my favorite follows on X right now in terms of covering this hockey team. She's amazing. Let me find her handle real quick. Yeah, it is a perfect at Saros FT Yossi. That's her Twitter handle. Go follow her. Puts out great stuff. There you have it with that. Some other stuff. Yeah, so many comments rolling in. We'll catch up with some other ones, but let's get down to business. We're presented by DraftKings. Promo code THPN. We'll tell you more about our current offer later on in this live edition of Catfish on Ice. Until then, let's start it off with letting Max take the floor on. I want to really unpack both games, Columbus and Chicago, 2 very different games. First of all, the Preds went into Chicago and just did what you would expect them to do. 2 very different teams in different places right now. The Blackhawks looked like they were not interested in playing a hockey game that night. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, if it would have been any other team in this league, I might have been like, hey, call off the dogs a little bit. Call off the dogs, all right? I'm feeling a little bad about how bad this game's coming. But against the Blackhawks, no, run up the score. I'm cool. But no, the Preds win 5-1. They pretty much assert their dominance in that game. Columbus game, I will say Columbus is way further along in their rebuild than Chicago is. Columbus has got some playmakers. They got some young prospects. They're going to be good in a couple years. They're a little ways off now, but Columbus has got some talent. So that game the defense was a little shaky, but Max, what's your overall assessment of these last two games after the Predators clinched the playoffs?
Overall, I've honestly been really happy with both games. Like I kind of said, in those games where it's essentially meaningless and not totally meaningless because the Preds still have to, and they still didn't clinch the first wild card spot in the West. But you've already clinched playoffs. You could easily kind of sit back a little bit and take it easy there and not push as hard, and because you don't want to get injured or whatever. But no, the Preds still acted like they had everything to play for. There was, and one of those things was Filip Forsberg's getting the goal record for this team, and he got a hat trick.
Yes,
he got a hat trick, and then he also got a goal last night, I believe, at 47 on the year now. So not just meeting the expectation we wanted, but exceeding it and continuing to do that. And this team, even in a game against Columbus, I know it wasn't the cleanest game, but number one I'll say is I believe that game was much more lopsided than the score indicated. That was not a typical 6-4 game. Preds were definitely the better team, but even in that game, gave up the first goal pretty quickly, but responded really well and just took it to them. We were hounding the puck down in the offensive zone. We were getting the pucks first, battling. There wasn't much that the Blue Jackets could do to stop us. And then at the end of the second period, go up 6-2. I mean, goals are just raining down. And yeah, you would have liked to see the defense be a little tighter in that game, but by the time the Blue Jackets really did much of anything, the game was pretty much over. So, and in that game too, you kind of understand a little more because you played last night, and you also played five before that third period against Columbus. You played 5 periods of, as we say, relentless hockey and lighting up the scoreboard and stuff. And you kind of figured, because after the end of the Columbus game, it was 6-2, and you would really I was the optimistic part of me thought maybe there's a chance we get 10 goals in this game, but that didn't happen. But at some point, the law of averages is going to balance out a little bit, especially when you have 5 the night before. 11 goals in 2 games, even against 2 really bad teams, is still a lot. So overall, I still really like what I saw from the Preds in these 2 games, and it shows, like I say, mark of a team that's playing well is not just shocking teams and games where no one expects you, but winning the games that you should also win and beat the teams that if you lose to, you're going to look really bad. So it's good to see the Preds are not backing down no matter what.
Another thing to really talk about is Roman Josi, 4-point game against Columbus. And we're just going to throw this out there right now. I don't think he deserves it. We're going to get into this a little bit later in the episode when it comes to the most heated Hart Trophy race that I can remember in a long time. Someone can jump in the comments and say, oh no, this year was closer. And that's fair. But in my recent memory, I can't remember a Hart Trophy race being full of this many worthy candidates. Now, when it comes to Roman Josi, even if I put my bias aside, I don't think he deserves to win it, but it's pretty cool to even see analysts out there at least throwing his name out there. They're not saying he should win it, but they're at least throwing his name out there, and it's just really a testament. But Norris Trophy wise, it looks like Roman Josi is at least going to be a finalist, one of the final 3. Wouldn't you think, Max?
You would think for sure. And it's crazy he's doing this again at age 33. Like, he has not taken a step back at all.
Yeah, I mean, he puts up a 4-point night. He is skating with so much determination right now. And I know it was against weaker competition against Columbus, but he's been doing it against elite competition as well. It's not like he just decided to suddenly break out against Columbus. No, he's been doing this for a long time. And so he's definitely going to be a finalist. Will he win it over Quinn Hughes of Vancouver? Probably not. Or Cal McCarr? Probably not. I don't think he will, because I feel like it always comes down to who has the most points and who has the most fanfare and who's on the best team. So it's probably going to be Cal
They also
McCarr
might dock Yossi a little for because we've always kind of known defensively he's been not necessarily the
he's
best.
Been better defensively this year, though. I think he's shown
especially in the second half of the year. I think
his blocks are up. I don't think he's made a lot of really decisive defensive plays in certain games down this stretch that I've taken mental notes on. I mean, yes, he's never going to be known as being the prototypical defensive defenseman. That's not his game. And the whole NHL is changing in that way. I mean, a lot of your defensemen, your elite defensemen, don't play that way anymore. But Yossi has taken it upon himself, I feel like, to become a more balanced defenseman. He's always going to be the elite offensive player who drives the play. But under Andrew Burnett's system, I feel like some of the pressure has actually been taken off of Yossi, where he doesn't have to do it all the time. But when it comes down to winning time and when it comes down to definitely overtime hockey, obviously in the playoffs, that won't apply. You won't have that 3-on-3 style, but he takes over. When it gets to overtime, Roman Yossi takes over. I mean, when he has that much open ice to deal with, and when he gets any type of open ice to get into the offensive zone, I mean, he looks like a elite point guard in the NBA, just like making people miss, and he does it with a puck on skates. I mean, it's really, truly incredible to watch what he's doing he's getting up there in age. I mean, he's still in the prime of his career, but
he'll be 34 in June, like early June.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I was wondering when is Roman Yossi's production going to start to dip from being elite to maybe being just not even ordinary, but just not elite anymore. And he had another trick up his sleeve, and he's like, nope, I'm still elite. I'm still one of the best in the league at my position. Yeah. So 4.9 from him. But I did.
Best players still
go ahead.
Continue to play well. I mean, the best players, even especially because Roman Yossi, for as much as yes, we always see that these guys whenever they age, their game is going to decline a little bit. That just happens. But for guys like Yossi, you can always expect their game to last a little longer because it's not like his game is predicated on necessarily athleticism or physicality or anything. It's being really crafty and smart and always finding ways to knife through the defense. And I don't think you just lose that over time. And maybe the athleticism a little bit because you got to be a good skater, but like he has the skill and talent to age well.
Yes. About to put on the screen here. So what are we looking for in the season finale, Max, against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are that's going to be a really fun game to watch because the Penguins are in a crazy dogfight for the Eastern Conference right now. And so they're going to have a lot to play for. It's going to feel like an elimination playoff game, a game 7 for the Penguins from their perspective.
Yeah.
And Max, how do you think the Predators should approach a game like that? Well, knowing that all that's on the line, we don't know. It could be you have to win that. It's going to be win that game and you can secure wild card 1, which there is so much up in the air right now. I know Vancouver is the front runner to be the Preds opponent, but there's still a lot that can happen with that. So how do you think the Preds should approach that?
Well, I tweeted earlier today, actually, after the Colorado Vegas game ended, thanks to Colorado not securing their 3-0 lead. And I'm sure we'll talk about them more later in this episode. Thanks to them not being able to secure a lead, Vegas won, and the Preds did not. If Vegas would have lost in any fashion, the Preds would have clinched the wild card 1 spot. Well, Vegas ended up winning, so it didn't happen. So now the Preds are going to be in a game tomorrow where it really matters because, in terms of, because Dallas has already clinched their division. They're probably going to clinch the conference. And Vancouver, they beat Edmonton last night. So in all likelihood, they're going to be their division winner. It's going to be Dallas, I'm sure, is going to end up number 1.
So much math. But
anyway, the Preds more have a lot to play for, and they can assume that they're playing to – because it's not just the seeding. They're playing to play what I'm sure a lot of people would rather play Vancouver than Dallas right now, especially with the directions these franchises are going in this season. So, the Preds are going to have – I really don't think you should rest anyone at least anyone that's really healthy. Maybe Alexander Carrier, because he went out last night. I've heard it was basically precautionary reasons, so I don't anticipate anything long term with him. So maybe you sit him, especially because the defense is really, really stacked in terms of guys who can come in and out.
Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. You're saying that you would not rest anybody, not Forsberg, not Yossi, nobody.
Not really, because you're playing for something, and especially because Pittsburgh, they're fighting for their playoff lives right here. Like they're going to play hard.
You're playing for wild card one.
This game.
How important is wild card one to put somebody at risk? You don't know, Max, what's going to happen if a bad hit takes place, a guy loses his edge, decides to do a bad hit on any of our guys, not just the top players. I know you can't rest everybody, but my point is, I get what you're saying. There is something to play for here, but what is really wild card one?
Granted,
wild card
you just got to get 1
point.
So you just got to get 1 point. So you don't have to, I guess, win. But I mean, I don't know. It's not like I'm not just taking. Maybe I guess I could compromise and be like, okay, take like kind of do what you did in the past 2 nights, take 1 or 2 guys out. But it's not like I'm just resting a bunch of guys. No, I'm playing like this game still matters.
I know. I'm not worried about giving guys rest. I'm not worried about the rest part of it. And like, so our buddy Johnny's on here saying, I agree with Max, and I get it. It's a very good argument to make. You can make arguments for each side. I'm on the side of something bad happening to a key player who have already, the Preds have been very fortunate on the injury front this year. They've been very lucky. Yes. I mean, and I know that the odds of in one game a bad injury happening are very low, and you should just roll with it. But I look at the risk reward, and I look at the reward right now, and I think, what is the reward? You get wild card one over Vegas. You still don't even know who you're playing right now. I mean, yeah, it's probably Vancouver, but if you fall back to wild card two, you're playing Dallas. Well, Max, didn't you say that you want to play Dallas? Dallas matches up.
No, I'm going to play Vancouver. I'm going to play Vancouver over Dallas.
But my point is, you're going to play a good team no matter what in the first round. And you're in the wild card spot. It's not like you're playing for home ice advantage right now or something.
No.
Like, so my point is, I'm resting key guys. I am. Yossi, he is a pro. 1 game off is not going to make him rusty for game 1 of the playoffs because he gets a 1 extra game off. Forsberg, I'm resting him. He's already got the goal record. It's great. That was the only reason I wanted him to play. There's certain guys that don't need to play this last game. I know there's a lot of people who are going to push back and disagree with me, but I don't see a point in it. Let some guys play, get some guys in there, treat it almost like not a preseason. You still play to win, and you've got some capable guys who can still go out and win you a game. But I'm not saying throw the game and don't care about it, but there's certain guys that I don't want in this game against Pittsburgh because there is that chance that something could happen. It's hockey. And you don't know how Pittsburgh is going to come into this game guns blazing. If the Preds were playing Chicago again in the final game, or they were playing a team who was way out of it, I would look at it maybe a little bit different. This is going to be a very desperate hockey team the Preds are about to play. And even though the Preds are in the playoffs, it's not going to feel like a game where anyone feels like they're in the playoffs. And Pittsburgh is going to bring it. And I'm not saying that any of their players are going to intentionally play dirty, but we know how hockey goes, especially in these types of games. All it takes is one guy just deciding to board somebody for no reason, and you've got a week-to-week injury going into game 1, and it's a guy you really need. And the Preds don't have a ton of margin for error when it comes to some of these injuries, some of these guys they need in their depth chart going up against these elite teams that they're going to be going up against in the first round. So my opinion is you've got some guys you can plug in and still get a point against Pittsburgh. It's not like you're throwing the game. I'm benching Yossi. I'm benching Forsberg. I'm thinking about benching O'Reilly. There's guys I want to bench because I don't want to see them get hurt. Because if those guys are out, you can kiss your first-round dreams goodbye. That's just how I feel about it.
I can see that, but part of my opinion also is not just because I do really want to clinch that wild card one spot. I feel better about our chances of beating Vancouver than I do Dallas, but also think of because the two teams that could finish ahead of us, LA and Vegas. Well, look who Vegas plays. Vegas plays Chicago and Anaheim. LA plays Minnesota and Chicago. Both teams have very winnable games remaining. So you're still, for the Preds, you still have a lot to play for tomorrow. And maybe I could see, okay, one or two guys sitting I could get, but I'm still playing you got to win this game. I'm sorry.
And I think they should play to win. I'm not saying they shouldn't play to win the game. I'm saying you rest Forsberg, you rest Yost. Those are my top two. Those are my non-negotiables. I'm resting Forsberg and I'm resting Yossi. And then, I mean, you could even rest. You could rest O'Reilly and put Cody Glass in a center position. And it's not like you're throwing out a team that can't beat Pittsburgh. It's not like you're just throwing in the towel and saying, "Oh, we're okay with losing this game because we're benching Forsberg." I mean, one game is not something where you bench Forsberg and you bench Yossi and you're saying, "Oh, we don't want to win this game. We don't care." You can still play with the same mentality. I would like to think we still believe in these guys who can be plugged in and played, and you avoid that injury risk. You start gearing up for the playoffs. It's an 82-game grind. These guys, hockey is a sport where they play so many games for the amount of punishment they take throughout a season relative to what they do. It's insane. They play 82 games. It's good for us as the fans, but for them, it's hard on their bodies. So don't underestimate getting an extra game off when all that's on the line is a wild card one. They're ready. Whether they are wild card one or wild card two, this team doesn't care. They want wild card one. They want to keep winning. That's the whole relentless motto. But my thing is, this team is not coming into the playoffs backing in, and they need some type of positive mojo, and they need to win the finale to make themselves feel good. This team had an 18-game point streak, and they had a couple slip-ups, and then they got back on track. And, I mean, I think they've accomplished what they need to accomplish this season, this regular season, I should say, to take a game off and rest some guys who do not want to take any chance of getting hurt. So I'll start with Yossi Forsberg, and then we can talk from there. But I'm resting those two if I'm in charge. I am.
I see what you're saying. Part of my opinion also is it's not just the Canucks being a first easier opponent than the Stars. I think the entire Pacific Division is a much more favorable draw than the Central. The Central is right there because I feel better about. I also feel better about getting the winner of Edmonton, LA versus the winner of Winnipeg, Colorado. I mean, yeah,
I should say on the screen right here, this is from Greg Wyshynski of ESPN. Also, the playoff odds that he shared are from Statleets, and that's all from the Eastern Conference because obviously the Western Conference is already set. But let's share those odds. Now, Western Conference is not completely set. What is in terms of who is in the playoffs, but in terms of seeding, it's all chaos and just you got to really it's like doing a Rubik's Cube to figure out you got to look at regulation wins, which is the first tiebreaker scenario. It's crazy. But looking at this from Greg Wyshynski of ESPN, he put it out there and we got it on the screen right now for our live viewers on X and YouTube and all those good things. Also Facebook, don't want to leave you out. But yeah, so we're looking at the remaining schedules for each team. Let's start with Dallas. Let's go down the list. Dallas has one game left. They've already won the Central. The only thing that the Dallas Stars have to gain is they want to get the top seed in the Western Conference. So that's what they're playing for in their final game, and they will take on St. Louis. Let's take a timeout, Max, and talk about St. Louis. As much as I don't hate them as much as I hate Chicago, not even close. But I got to give some credit for St. Louis. They did not give up. They kept pounding away. They had a valiant effort. They didn't throw in the towel. So I have a newfound respect for this year's St. Louis Blues team because they didn't let the Preds coast into the playoffs. They kept,
No,
or
not at
Vegas
all.
for that matter, or Vegas. They didn't let the wild card teams coast in the playoffs. So I do have to give respect, or respect is due, to the St. Louis Blues.
If they would have won that game in Nashville 10 days ago, that would have made things really, really dicey. I would have been very nervous.
So Dallas is going to play St. Louis in the finale. We'll see what happens. Those games are always quirky, but you would expect Dallas to have a lot to play for there and care about that game so that they can get home ice advantage throughout the Western Conference. So let's go down the list here. Winnipeg is just on a train right now, running people over, which makes that 3-1 comeback in the third period by the Preds even more impressive. But yeah, so you look at that. Winnipeg is at 106 points. They just beat Colorado 7-0.
And they're playing each other in the first round.
And that was essentially for home ice advantage. Now, you could still have a flip-flop there where Colorado gets home ice advantage in the first round. Both teams have 2 games left, it looks like there. So keep an eye on that. But we know that Winnipeg and Colorado will play in the first round. And again, I invite you to go listen to episode 228 of Catfish on Ice. Our previous episode from tonight had Brian Finlayson, co-host of Level Flight Podcast, covering the Winnipeg Jets, fellow podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. Awesome conversation with him. He gave his perspective, outsider perspective, on what he thinks the Predators will do in the playoffs. He had some interesting thoughts on that. Very, very smart hockey guy. He knows his stuff. And we got into the game that happened on Tuesday that was such a fun game to watch, and some other stuff. So you can go watch that on YouTube now, or actually watch it after you're watching this live episode. But you can go watch it on YouTube. Also hit subscribe and have fun. So we're going to, so let's get down the list. But yeah, Winnipeg. And Max, you brought it up, man. Very smartly so in the past. Back when we first started looking at playoff scenarios like a month ago, Winnipeg is dangerous because they got this guy named Connor Hellebuyck.
No, they absolutely are. And the way they're playing right now, I also recall these past 2 episodes, I've been pretty high on Colorado, but the past week and a half or so, I've done quite the 180 because they do not look good lately, like at all.
Oh, we got Maddie. We got Maddie. She's on YouTube right now.
Oh, there you go.
Sharing her handle. So you need to go follow everyone who's watching who hasn't followed her yet. You will thank me later because her Preds content is an A+. So glad I stumbled upon her content. She puts out great stuff, and we're going to try to get her on the podcast soon once we can figure out schedules and all that stuff. But yeah, go give her a follow. Everyone's welcoming her in. She's awesome. Okay. So, Winnipeg, Colorado, let's get to the Pacific Division. Edmonton still has an outside chance to pass Vancouver, but it's very unlikely. I think that's a good thing for Preds fans.
I do too. I really do.
I mean, we're gonna kind of get into it when we do our Western Conference power rankings a little bit later in this episode. It's coming up. A little bit of a teaser there, but we are going to do our Western Conference. We're not going to even touch the Eastern Conference because it's already going to take us like a long time tonight to do everything we have on our rundown. If we get into the crapshoot that is the Eastern Conference right now, and I'm trying to be safe for work and not cuss too much because I have family members who watch this who probably don't want me to cuss too much on live broadcasting. But yeah, it's a cluster, and I'll leave out that second word in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference right now. And so we're not going to even touch the Eastern Conference. Well, I can actually maybe put it on the screen from Greg Wyshynski. I can probably put it on the screen at least so everyone can look at it because it is a good post that Greg Wyshynski put out of ESPN. So I will get that on the screen. Let me find it real quick and put it up. But yeah, there it is. We will put it up, the Eastern Conference, because even though we're Preds fans, the Eastern Conference is pretty interesting right now. But we are going to rank our Western Conference overall playoff teams, just power rankings straight up. You know how power rankings work, but we're also going to go a little deeper, and we're going to actually, there's the Eastern Conference right now, but we are going to rank the top lines, and we're really going to go deeper than just top lines. We're really going to look at the top 6, because not every team's top line is really set right now, like the Preds. Now, let's talk about that for a second. The Preds have their top line of Ryan O'Reilly, Filip Forsberg, and Gus Nyquist. I've been tracking this since the All-Star break. When I first noticed it, their top line has the second most time on ice together in the entire league. I don't think that's getting talked about nearly enough.
Crazy.
I know the Preds on Bally broadcast has talked about it because they're always on top of good stuff with Willie Donick and all them, Chris Mason. But around the league, people don't realize how important chemistry is. The fact that the Preds top line has the second most minutes together among all top lines in the NHL, over 700 minutes together. That is huge. That's big.
That's crazy, man. That is. I didn't realize it either. But and it makes sense though, because they've literally been together since late October, and they have not switched at all.
And I will eat crow going into the. I am always someone who admits I'm wrong in my analysis and my predictions and all that. And going into the season when Gus Nyquist was signed, first of all, in those free agency acquisitions, I was hype about Ryan O'Reilly. I was really hype, but I was very vanilla. I was very didn't really have an opinion one way or the other when it came to Gus Nyquist. It didn't move the needle for me. I was kind of like, okay, another veteran who's had some success. How are you going to fit him in? Where is he going to go? Are we trying to revive something that's not there anymore? I was really I didn't think it was a bad move. I just didn't really get hype about it, I guess, if that makes sense. And the fact that Gus Nyquist just stormed onto the Preds top line pretty early, first of all, 100% credit to Andrew Burnett for finding that duo and identifying it and sticking with it. Something John Hines would never do. And then the fact that they have been so consistent and they've been so productive together, and it's just the chemistry is just insane, and it's boiling over now, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs, and we're going to rank our top lines for the Western Conference. We'll see where me and Max put the Predators top line in our Western Conference teams when it comes to top lines. If you're all of our friends who are watching in the comment section right now, I want to hear from you. Maybe give me your top 3 or give me all your 8 teams. Tell me how you rank the Western Conference playoff teams. We will put it on the screen here. But real quick, Max, Eastern Conference playoff race, which is just, my brain capacity right now after a long work week, I don't even, it's going to give me a headache even trying to break this down. But Max, it looks like the Islanders are definitely in. They've kind of hit a hot streak recently, and the Red Wings are back in good graces. Maybe they have a good chance, but the Capitals are still alive, and even the Flyers and the Penguins could get in.
Yeah, every one of those teams. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a ton to process.
And so you look at the remaining schedules for these teams who are on the fringe in the Eastern Conference. You look at the Flyers, they play Washington, so that's going to be a fun game to watch. The Penguins, of course, play Nashville in their finale. They also got to play at the Newark Islanders. The Red Wings, who are in good position right now to possibly get in the playoffs even after that long losing streak, they get Montreal twice. How about a gift from the gods for them?
Yeah, that is a favor.
And then the Capitals, they get Boston, which, maybe Boston, we'll see how much Boston gets up for that game. But the Capitals get Boston and at Philly. So really, it's Philly versus Washington could have some ramifications. But if the Red Wings can take care of business against Montreal, who's way out of it, they're in. And then you look at the Islanders, they're already in the driver's seat. So, yeah, we'll see what happens here. Pittsburgh is going to have a lot to play for, though.
Yep.
In that finale. Sure. All right. So that's what we're looking at. With that, let's move on here. Catfish and Ice playoff bound edition, episode 229 with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Let's move along here and talk about kind of what do we think needs to be improved for game one. I know the power plays looked a lot better lately.
Yeah.
It helps when you play a team like Chicago, who didn't seem like interested in playing that game at all.
I would say, what I would say, the things I want to see improved are, number one, and it's gotten better, of course, it's going to probably get better against teams like Chicago and Columbus, but the week, kind of the week since the Boston game and through the Winnipeg game, there had been a lot of things with just, finishing chances and not being able to beat good goaltenders. Happened against Linus Ullmark, Semyon Varlamov, Jake Allen, and also it happened against Connor Hellebuyck. And that third period against the Jets against Connor Hellebuyck, when we stormed back and tied that game, did make me feel better about that. But you don't want to go into, you don't want to go into the playoffs because you're gonna be playing good teams in the playoffs. And I know it's in the West, some goaltending is not necessarily the best, but you want to be able to finish your chances. You got to make things happen, and you don't want to. And there can only be. Main thing is, most of the time where you create really good chances, you're going to score goals. But we can't be getting into games all the time where it's like, well, 90% of the time you win that. No, you got to be executing your chances all the time. So again, I feel better about that after watching the Winnipeg third period, but still, that's still something in the back of my head right now. But also, there have been a few games since the winning streak ended where it's been a little bit, lackadaisical in the defensive zone, especially that game against Arizona, game against Colorado where we lost McDonough. So that was definitely, that was pretty valid there. But also even the game against St. Louis and Winnipeg, again, Winnipeg too, we in the first period had a lot of chances against, and they went into a 3-1 lead. So, and even against Columbus too. So it comes down to overall playing, being able to play truly consistent, finish your chances, but also make sure the structure is tight in the defensive zone. You have to make sure that UC Saros is not just having to bail you out repeatedly.
For sure. Let's get caught up on some comments here. Buster Bennett, he jumps in on his Western Conference playoff rankings. Thank you, Buster, for giving us that. So we got Buster's got 1 Dallas, 2 Edmonton, 3 Nashville. Love the optimism there. I love it. 3 Nashville, 4 Colorado, 5 Winnipeg, 6 Vegas, 7 Vancouver, and then 8 LA Kings. And then also let's give some love to our fellow Hockey Podcast Network host of the Level Flight Podcast. Joined us for episode 228, Brian Finlayson. Just catching up a bit here, but thank you for the kind words. I enjoyed coming on and chatting Jets. You know what? Brian kind of gave me a little bit of backup love for the Jets if the Preds can't win it. His hockey.
On Tuesday after the game, Dylan DeMello, one of their players, got out and in the interview, he raved about what a great atmosphere Nashville is and how much teams and opposing teams always kind of fear coming to play in Nashville because it's so loud.
I saw that. That was cool.
After that, I'm like, man, I'm kind of a Dylan DeMello fan.
You don't see players be that transparent about opposing fans like that. That was cool. Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah. But thank you, Brian, for that. Those kind words. You were awesome. Your hockey knowledge was I could sit and listen to you talk hockey for a while, man. I mean, we had a great time. So all of you hockey fans out there, go check out that episode. Also, check out Level Flight Podcast. They do a great job over there. Just one of the many great fellow podcasts we have on the Hockey Podcast Network. All right, so let's move on further. So Max just covered what I think, what he thinks about improvements. So, I mean, there's always room for improvement, right? Yeah. So for me, I'm always going to focus on special teams. And I know that the Predators have hit a hot streak with their power play, but when it comes to playing more elite teams and it comes to playoff hockey, don't take it with a grain of salt what they did against Chicago and Columbus. And I've been saying this for a while now, well over a month. I said it a few episodes ago. The Predators are going to have to be a more consistent team on special teams to win in the playoffs, because UZ Saros is going to do the work when he is set up and when he's protected. But when you are, this is not a bad disciplined team. This team is different than past Predators teams. The Predators teams have always been physical, hard-hitting teams. That's just always been their mantra. But Max, you remember, man, me and you have been watching this team together for a while and corresponding on it. The old school Predators teams, not old school, but going back just a couple of years ago under John Hines, they would take so many penalties, bad penalties.
And they struggle, and they've done a little bit of that in Brunette, but it's still, I would say it's gotten better for sure.
It's gotten better. A lot of times when they take penalties, it's either A, a bad call, or B, maybe borderline. It could go either way, or C, it was a penalty where you're like, okay, in that moment, because penalties are going to happen. You can't get mad every time a guy goes to the box.
And some games are going to be bad.
But that gets me to my point. I know the Predators have gotten a little bit better on their penalty kill, but it still scares me going against the elite power plays that they're going to face in the playoffs. It could be their ultimate undoing. 5-on-5, I'm not worried about the Predators. I'm not worried about their defense. I'm not worried about their offense. 5-on-5 hockey, I think the Predators can handle the top-heavy Avalanche. Yes, I said it. The Avalanche are very top-heavy, and that's why I think Dallas is scarier than Colorado, because Dallas is 1 through 4 lines deeper than Colorado. I think that Nashville can win 5-on-5 against almost anybody in the Western Conference except for Dallas. Dallas is the one team that scares me when it comes to, I think the Predators might, I don't know if they can handle them toe-to-toe 5-on-5. That's why the Dallas Stars scare me so much. Yeah, but when it comes to special teams, the Predators are going to have to ramp up and show that they can produce on the power play. Not just beat up on bad teams on the power play who aren't even interested in being there, like Chicago was. No, I'm talking like you're going to have to not overpass, not overthink it. There's been games where the Predators can't even enter the zone when they're on the power play and get set up. That's got to get figured out. So that's my biggest improvement the Predators have to make if we're talking playoff success. It's happy. We're all happy they're there. It's playoff bound episode here. We're happy. I'm not trying to be the wet blanket here, but we've all been there. We've been there a lot in the last 10 years. Aside from a couple years, the Predators always get into the first round and then they bow out. Can this year be different? Can this year be like 2016-17? If it's going to happen, power play has to show up against these elite teams.
Yeah, no, I definitely say that. And, it's also important, like you say, to make sure you're not taking penalties. And again, that's better now than under John Hines. I remember one of the games against John Hines last year. I believe it was 9 penalties in a game one time. It's crazy. Yeah. Luckily, it doesn't really happen much this year.
I think the penalties they take under Andrew Brunette are either borderline and just like, okay, like that's just a stupid call, a bad call, or
you have to
or sometimes you have to take penalties. I mean, it's going to happen. But I always love Andrew Brunette's reaction when it's a bad call. And a lot of times if you're a lip reader, it's like, okay, turn away. I mean, the guy's
he gets fiery about it. That's for sure.
But he's not even fiery. Like, I feel like he's just like, you can see that his disdain in his face. You can see his body language, but he doesn't like, let's take Peter Laviolette. Peter Laviolette used to just go on a roid rage. He used to just like go nuts and just like start, like you'd think he was wondering if he was going to start throwing stuff off the bench. Brunette's different. You can tell he's pissed, but he like holds it together. And as long as you're not a lip reader, you'll be fine. But
I have seen some nights though where the calls have added up, and he's gotten some nights he's gotten pretty ready to fight.
Whereas John Hines would just keep that same look on his face, and it would just drive me crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so those are improvements that me and Max think this team needs. We're about to unveil our power rankings on the Western Conference playoff teams. That now that the Western Conference playoff teams are set, the seedings aren't, but the teams are. The top lines and the goalies. We're going to rank the goalies as well, and where we're going to put the Predators. Before that, let's show some love to DraftKings, our amazing sponsor who has been with us since the early days of this podcast. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. We got the playoffs coming, but we still got some big playoff ramifications going on here in these last few days of the regular season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers can bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.org or .com, I should say, /hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. We've already broken down some of the games coming up, but let's tell you what DraftKings odds are looking like right now so you can think about the odds that you want to take with our promo code THPN if you're a new user. All right, so on Monday, we got the Canadiens at the Red Wings. The Red Wings are minus 205 favorites. The Canadiens are plus 170 on the money line. So if you want to play the odds and take the Canadiens as the spoilers to the Red Wings, go ahead and go for that. We got the Islanders at the Devils. Oh, Max, the Devils. What a disappointment this year.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I would not like to be a Devils fan right now.
They got to be the biggest disappointment of the league. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say so, yeah. But then last year, they were like the biggest surprise in the league. So,
yeah. I mean, they're going to be around. They're not going anywhere. But this year's definitely a letdown for sure. Preds at the Penguins. Let's talk about that. DraftKings has a really, really close odds here, but they do have the Penguins as slight favorites at home, minus 130 on the money line. Preds, you can take them for plus 110, but DraftKings has that a very close game, as it should be. And other Monday night games that might be of interest, the Bruins at the Capitals. The Capitals are trying to make the playoffs right now. They are underdogs at home against the Bruins. And then if you want to look at the most slanted odds of the night, it is the Sharks at the Oilers. If you want to take a big risk and a big chance, you can take the Sharks for plus 340 at the Oilers. Do with that what you will if you're feeling lucky. All right, that's DraftKings promo code THPN. Let's get into it, Max, with our power rankings. I got the Western Conference standings there on the bottom of the screen for all of our live viewers right now. Let's get into some comments. Madison says, Brunette has been a very passionate coach. John Hines had no expressions.
Kind of right.
Yeah, that's pretty true there. some other things that Madison says here. Madison says, this season I feel has been real bad with the referees ignoring blatant calls against us and calling silly ones on us. Yeah. Silly's a good way to put it. That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've definitely had some silly calls against us. Yeah, for sure. Our buddy Squeegee Dude, CJ, where games are won and lost is the penalties against the Stars or Canucks. You cannot take penalties, capitalize on 5-on-5 chances. Put that on a billboard. I don't know. That'd be a big billboard to fit all that font on there, all that text. But Squeegee Dude, CJ, that is exactly, you said that better than I could say it. Where games are won and lost is the penalties. Against the Stars or Canucks, you cannot take penalties, capitalize on 5-on-5 chances. Max, you know this, man. The Preds are a really difficult and really hard team to play against at 5-on-5. Every team in the Western Conference knows that. So you got to be preaching discipline here, I think, going into game one.
You got to be preaching that, just the right amount of physicality. And it's all about finding the balance. So you really got to find that middle ground perfectly.
All right, Max. So before we do our general power rankings of the Western Conference teams, I think we should work backwards and start with our goalies. Let's start with ranking our goalies.
Okay.
And if we I'm going to allow this. If we have a team who we think going into the playoffs is going to do a committee where they do a game one, game two type of combo, you can factor that into your rankings if you want to.
I actually didn't have any. I don't think there's going to be any of that in the playoffs, honestly.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, Max, how about you go 1 through 8, and then I'll go with my 1 through 8.
Do you want me to start at bottom 8, or do you want to start?
Yeah. How about you? No. Yeah. Start 8 and work your way up. I like that better.
Yep. Number 8, this is not going to make Colorado Avalanche fans happy. I put Alexander Georgiev.
Oh, I did not see you putting them that far down.
Yep, I just did.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess you didn't have that.
No, do your list, and then we'll.
Fair enough. You're right. I put number 7. I put Stuart Skinner from Edmonton.
Okay.
Number 6, I had Cam Talbot from LA. Number 5, I had Aiden Hill from Vegas. Number 4, I had Thatcher Demko from the Canucks. Number 3, Jake Ottinger from Dallas. Number 2, UC Soros from the Preds, obviously. And number 1, Connor Hellebuyck from Winnipeg.
All right. Our list is not actually that different. There's a couple spots here and there, but Georgiev is the big one. Okay, let me do my list, and then we'll talk. All right. So when I went with LA, I didn't know whether to list Cam Talbot or David Riddick as game 1 starter, because Riddick, you do realize David Riddick is among some of the best goaltenders in the league in terms of goals saved above expected this year.
I did. And that's the one I really thought, okay, this could potentially be a committee. But I actually went and looked, and I've kind of seen their start splits from recently, and it really seems like Talbot's playing the majority of games.
You would think Cam Talbot is probably game 1 starter.
I would think so.
But I still put LA number 8 because that combo I'm not going to trust at all.
Yep. Fair enough.
I can't look at LA winning a first-round series because of their goaltending. If they're going to win a first-round series, it's going to be because of something else. So I got them at number 8, LA, in terms of goalies, whether it's Riddick or Talbot. Number 7, just like you, Max, I put Stuart Skinner in Edmonton.
Okay.
Number 6, we're different here. We're off. I think you had this guy at number 3 on your list. I got Jake Ottinger at number 6.
Wow. Okay.
He's very streaky, man, and he's not been in it very often like this. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I got him way back. I got Georgiev at number 5.
Okay.
I got Georgiev and Ottinger basically a coin flip. I mean, if you made me do it, I would switch them 6 and 5 and not really think about it. It's kind of a coin flip for me, but I look at them both the same way. They got great elite teams in front of them. If they can put it together with the great team in front of them, then they're going to win a Stanley Cup for their respective team. And if both goalies put it together and Dallas and Colorado meet, that's going to be an all-time great series to watch. But I don't know why, but I slightly trust Georgiev a little bit more than Ottinger, but it's kind of a crapshoot. It's a coin flip for me. Number 4, I got Vegas, Aiden Hill. Number 3, I got Demko. And the only reason he's even that far back is because I don't know how his injury's working out. I don't know.
That's where the framework of mind I was under a little bit too with that.
I thought about putting Aiden Hill above Demko, and I kind of went back and forth, and because Demko's never really gotten the chance to be in this situation. He's always been a great goalie. We always know he's great. But in playoff hockey, and then I got Saros number 2, just like you, and I got Hellbuck number 1, so we're on the same page there.
Yeah, that makes sense there. Yep.
The only really we're only different on Georgiev. That's in Ottinger. Georgiev and Ottinger. You got Ottinger at number 3.
Yeah, I have him pretty high in it. He is streaky, but part of that also, the ones I could have potentially justified having above for me, the ones I would have justified potentially Aiden Hill, but I know he won a Stanley Cup, but he's kind of come out of nowhere recently. I haven't seen quite enough sample size there. And I didn't put Demko above Ottinger either because mainly because of that injury he has. I don't know if he's going to come back cold or what it is. And he says it looks like he's going to come back this coming week, which he'll have 2 games. And apparently he's been pretty adamant saying 2 games he thinks is enough. But 2 games then the playoffs, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we don't really know. A Predemption on YouTube says, I've got a devil's buddy at my job. He laments every time he sees me. They didn't make Brunette their coach instead of Lindy Ruff. Mind you, he also hates their goaltending situation. So I saw something else, Max. We're going to take a little off ramp here and talk about something. There's still an outside chance this whole UC Saros stuff is going to come right back up in the offseason, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. I could.
I mean, there's a chance that if the right deal comes up, Trotz could trade Saros this offseason.
We'll save that for later. Do you want to do it before the draft? Do you want to do after? Me personally, you don't really, you really can't get picky there, in my opinion. You just got to wait for the best deal there is and go with that.
Let's I don't want to be talking about that kind of stuff before the playoffs.
Fair enough.
We'll table that, but it is a good thing to bring up.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to our top lines. And the way I'm going to preface this rankings here is that there are some teams that don't have the luxury that the Predators have in terms of set top lines. Let me just give you this, and I don't have the list right in front of me. I can pull it up real quick. But let's just take the Canucks, for example. Great team, obviously. They're 4 points back from the best point total in the Western Conference. They've come back down to reality a little bit, but they're still a great team. We know who Elias Pettersson is. He's elite. He's all-time great. This dude has not had a consistent top line all season. What does that mean for the playoffs, Max? And you know I'm big on chemistry. I've already been saying it a lot in this episode. But you're looking at the Canucks, a 107-point team right now. Could end up taking – they still have an outside chance if the Stars just completely if the Stars don't take any points in their last game and the Canucks win their last 2 games, the Canucks would have the tiebreaker over the Stars based on regulation wins. I did the math. I went and looked at it before we went live today. So there is an outside chance the Canucks could still get the top seed. But my point is they're a great team. They've done it all season, but they've done it without their elite top superstar having a consistent top line. I could not believe it when I was looking at the same list to look at Nyquist and Forsberg and O'Reilly having the second most minutes among forward lines together. To find the Canucks and to find Elias Pettersson, you've got to go so far down the list when it comes to time on ice together to find Elias Pettersson's line. I mean, you have to go – I'm scrolling right now, but go ahead, Max.
Did you happen to look and see for the Avalanche too? Because looking how they were constructed, they've got to be in a similar situation.
There are similar. So They are 14. So the Druin, McKinnon, Rantanen line has 473 minutes together, which is 14th most. So, but we don't know where they're going to put Rantanen. We don't know if they're going to put Rantanen on the top line, if they're going to move him to the second line. That's something for Avalanche fans to argue amongst themselves about what's better there. But the point is, the Predators are in a weird spot, or in a good spot, I should say, where they know who their top line is. The second line's more up for debate, but yeah, let me scroll all the way down before we really do our rankings here. This is tough. The first Canucks line I come across is not even their top line. It doesn't even feature Elias Pettersson. That's my point. The Canucks have not really settled on a top line all season.
Yeah, that matters.
So we really don't know.
That matters.
That does matter. I did try to come up with a line combo. Maybe it would be JT Miller. It will be in there. Maybe it'd be Brock Besser, you would think.
The way I did mine, and it was probably a little different than just doing the top six. I went to dailyfaceoff.com and I just did every team's what their top line was listed. Now, obviously, some of these teams have injuries. And for example, Vegas was one of those teams where, Mark Stone being out, obviously he's on their first line. Edmonton, a few days. Obviously, he's on the first line.
Impeccable timing.
Yeah, right. But anyway, the way I did my top lines was I did just look at Daily Face. I looked at Daily Faceoff and put that top line. So my rankings are not necessarily going to be reflective of the entire top six, like maybe you were thinking, Chad, but it is just for the top lines what I had.
So before we really start doing our list here, I just wanted to hammer my point home here. So I'm just looking at the Canucks, just their team in general, and the most minutes together. To find Elias Pettersson, his most consistent line only has 181 minutes together. So he has been moved around. His line mates have been shifted around a lot. I'm not saying that necessarily matters a ton, but I'm just saying the point is the Canucks are one of those examples of a team.
I think it does.
I mean, yeah, so you got Kuzmenko, who's a good player, but
he's not even on the team anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So you don't know. I mean, it looks like I wouldn't think it would maybe be Miller and Besser, but we don't know. I don't follow the Canucks every day, so I don't know. That the point is they're up in the air. Yeah. But let's do it. So I'll start off my list here, and then you can do yours.
Sure.
We'll move this a little bit quicker, so we break down every team's top six. We'll be here until 4 a.m. But I'm going to go number 8. I'm sorry for any Kings fans out there, but I put number 8, LA Kings. I am. Pierre-Luc Dubois, don't trust that dude. That dude does not even get up for a lot of regular season games. I don't even know if he's going to get up for a playoff game. I don't know. Quentin Byfield, I know he's having a breakout year. He was on my fantasy team. He was pretty good. I like him as a player. I don't know if he's ready for the playoff stage. I don't know. He had a breakout year. He really has had a great year. I don't know. I like the Kings in terms of they're a team that's on the rise. Are they ready to win in the playoffs? I don't know. I look at their top line. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang. I wasn't impressed whenever the Preds played the Kings head-to-head. I wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
Preds kind of dominated them a little bit. Not dominated them, but they definitely took care of business.
Yeah.
Number 7, Winnipeg, in terms of top lines. You got Kyle Connor. We've known about Kyle Connor for a long time. Who's their top line? Probably Scheifele and Viardi, maybe. 182 minutes together. I don't know. Number 6, I got Vancouver for the reasons I've already mentioned. Pettersson, then who? No consistent top line combos. Number 5, I got Dallas. Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski. So I'm big on Dallas. I've been very, very adamant about how big I am on Dallas being one of the top Stanley Cup contenders out of the entire playoff field, East or West. The only thing that gives me pause is they're deep. Lines 1 through 4. Their top line doesn't have to carry the whole load because I think lines 1 through 4, they're the best team in hockey right now. So I got Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski. 706 minutes together this year, so they've got plenty of chemistry. Pavelski's got playoff pedigree to him. Robertson's a rising star. Rupe Hintz is also a young talent. That's a good line. That's a good top line. I got them number 5, though. Number 4, with all of their injuries coming around and guys getting healthy, I put Vegas at number 4. When does Stone get back? Is Bruce Cassidy, the coach of the Golden Knights, is playing coy with us, saying, I'm not sure if Stone will be ready for game 1. What do you think? Do you think Mark Stone will be ready for game 1?
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's just how it goes.
Going off that, you got Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and that third spot's a little up for grabs when I'm just scanning over Vegas's depth chart. You would think it might be Barbashev, but we really don't know. But either way, you got Eichel and Mark Stone on a line together.
Yeah.
I'm putting them number 4. Number 3, I'm putting Nashville.
Okay.
Which I would have had myself tested and put into the psychiatric ward if I would have said that going into the season.
Right.
But I've got Nashville at number 3 among the top lines. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, second most minutes together in the NHL, as I said. 756 minutes together. Number 2, I still put Colorado ahead of Nashville with McKinnon, Druin, Lankinen, maybe. Lehkonen, maybe Rantanen. We don't know really where Colorado's going to slot Rantanen.
Right.
I would be of the opinion that Rantanen would be better on the second line, so that you have 2 balanced, just crazy top lines. I don't want to use relentless for Colorado because that's our term.
No.
Almost relentless, but it's just an easy term to use. But I would think that Rantanen's better on your second line, because then that's what makes Colorado so good, is that they're so top heavy, and you have just 2 lines that feel like they never leave the ice. That's when you're playing Colorado, you feel like McKinnon never leaves the ice. You feel like Rantanen never leaves the ice. So I would think it would make more sense to split McKinnon and Rantanen up and put Rantanen on the second line. But we'll have to wait and see. But still, I got Colorado number 2. And then I put Edmonton number 1 because you got the world's best player in McDavid. You've got Draisaitl, who probably will play second line. And then you got Zach Hyman, who's just been such a great comeback story, dude. Such an electric goal scorer. And then Nugent Hopkins, who's just gets overlooked all the time because he's on a team with McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman. But Edmonton, always, it's never their playoff success isn't based off that. It's based off I ranked their goaltending at number 7. So they got in my opinion, they got the best players among the forwards in the Western Conference, but they got the 7th ranked goaltending. So how much does that offset each other? That's where I fall down on Edmonton. I don't know about Edmonton.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go with my lines. And once again, I didn't do top 6. And if some of these lines could change, and if so, that could change my rankings. But again, it's not just for top 6. And from what I could gather, it's the top line that dailyfaceoff.com put. So here's what I have. Number 8, I put Vancouver with Ilya Mikheyev, Elias Pettersson, and Niels Höglander. Number 7, I put now seeing CJ's comment, that probably my ranking's a little off here, but still, number 7, I had Colorado with Jonathan Drouin, Nathan McKinnon, and Arturi Lehkonen. Yeah, it's probably a little lower than a lot of people have. Number 6, I had Winnipeg with Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabriel Velarde. Number 5, I put LA with Quentin Byfield, Anze Kopitar, and Adrian Kempe. Number 4, I put Vegas with Jonathan Marchessault, Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone. Number 3, I put the Preds with Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist. Number 2, I actually had Dallas with Robertson, Hintz, and Pavelski.
That's fair.
And number 1, I had, of course, Edmonton with Draisaitl, McDavid, and Zach Hyman.
So we are in agreement. We did not discuss our rankings before the episode, by the way.
Yep.
So we are in agreement on both of our top teams in goalies and top lines. We're different with some of the rankings, but on
And
our
not
top
only
spot.
that, but we're in agreement with where the Preds goaltender should be ranked and the line.
And we didn't talk about this. I'm being
No, we
dead
did not at
honest
all.
with
Nope.
you right now. We
Nope.
did not.
We did not say a
All
word.
right. So we both have Nashville's top line is ranked number 3 among the Western Conference teams. All right. Overall power rankings for the West teams. And me and Rich, my good friend Rich that I miss so much. Whenever we would do power rankings, we would get his power rankings would be based on that current situation. And my power rankings would always be on what could be, what could happen. He would get so mad at me. He'd be like, your power rankings make no sense. Like, I'm going off what's happening now. But either way, that's what makes power rankings fun. That's why everyone loves power rankings, because it's in the eye of the beholder. So here are my power rankings from 8 to 1.
And
then we'll
I should ask, are we going from, so we've done the previous ones from like 8 to bottom. Now, do we want to go from the top down from the power rankings? We want to do a little differently here?
Let's go top to down. Yeah, let's switch it up a little bit.
Do that. All right.
I don't think Max is going to be surprised at all. My top team is Dallas. I will eat crow
I'll say that's who I had too. So, but anyway, I'm not going to give away more than that.
So Dallas is my number 1 power ranking team in the West right now. They have not let up. They keep winning. They keep doing what they got to do. Even with me not trusting Jake Ottinger, I do think he is good enough to be protected by what he has in front of him. I don't, when I rank him number 6, it doesn't mean that I think he's an awful goalie. I don't even want to take it that way. There's some good goalies we're ranking here. So it's not really like a knock on him like that. I think he's awful. It's just, he hasn't been in this situation very often. So it's the trust factor for me. But Dallas is the deepest team you can argue some other teams in the Eastern Conference might be able to give Dallas a run for their money in that regard, but just by the basis of this exercise, just Western Conference teams, I think they're the deepest team in the field. So that's why I put them number 1. Number 2, a week ago, I would not have said this. I'm putting Winnipeg up there because results matter. Head-to-head results have to matter. If it was a 4-3 skin by your teeth, barely get by win over Colorado, maybe I would think about it. But you went out and beat that team 7-0 in a game that both teams really wanted to win because you're playing for home ice advantage. That has to mean something.
No, that game definitely impacted my rankings as well.
So I'm going to put Winnipeg number 2. I am. Number 3, I'm going to put Colorado. Number 4, I'm going Vegas because they're getting healthy. They're getting healthy and whether you like it or not, whether we think they're cheating, I don't think they're cheating. It's annoying, but they're definitely not cheating. It's allowed what they're doing with the LTIR.
We're not cheating. No.
But I realize it annoys people and the whole lacerated spleen and how it magically just gets better right when Mark Stone's ready for the playoffs. I get all that. I'm just going off of, okay, when they get fully complement players and when they've already got Hurdle in there and once he starts getting more comfortable and then they've got Aiden Hill, who I already mentioned as one of the best goalies in this Western Conference playoff field. I mean, they're getting fully strength right at the right time. And I kept saying how funny it would be if they just didn't get in, like if something crazy happened and the St. Louis Blues caught them and they missed it and they never got a chance. Well, it's not going to happen. They're going to get in. And it would not surprise me at all if they upset whichever division winner they play. So I got them number 4. I got Edmonton number 5. I got Nashville number 6. No love, no respect for Vancouver coming from me. And I shouldn't say respect. I respect them.
Yeah, that may be a bold thing to say before we're probably playing them.
Hey, I'll eat my words. If it happens. I don't know. I think they peaked too early. I feel like they're a team that's definitely got weaknesses that you can exploit in a 7-game series. The only thing that scares me about Vancouver is don't put them on the power play too often because Pettersson will just take over on the power play, him alone. I am not worried about the Predators beating the Canucks 5-on-5. We saw it in the head-to-head series, and a lot of those games happened early in the season.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
Preds are a very different team than the last time they played the Canucks. And even in those games, if you remember, the Preds they wet the bed in those games. They were in control of those games and could have won those games. At least two of them. So who knows? I mean, we're talking about two different teams playing each other at this point in the first round, possibly. But I might eat my words. But I got Vancouver number 7, and I got LA number 8. So really no love for me from LA. I got LA ranked.
Yeah, you really have no showing. You're not showing love
on all
LA
three lists.
right
All three lists, I got LA ranked last.
Wow,
but
you really
I
do.
think
That's funny.
The big headline from my power rankings list is a team that has a chance to have the top seed in the Western Conference. I have ranked number 7. So don't accuse me of going chalk, because I am not going chalk right now. I got Vancouver number 7 out of 8 teams among my Western Conference teams. I do not trust them. But also, I'm not being biased here at all. I still got the Preds number 6. I think it's been a great story. I'm not saying they can't pull off an upset, but I look at some of these teams I have ranked ahead of them, and I feel like they are just a little bit further along than where the Predators are right now. The Predators have overperformed. They're way ahead of schedule. I'm not saying they're a bad team. All I'm saying is it's about to get real. The playoffs are real. And some of these other teams have some elite superstars that might just be a little bit too much for the Predators to overcome. We'll see, but that's why I have them at number 6. I'm putting my bias aside here. There's my list. So let's get Max's.
Yeah, so I did probably a little differently than Chad, and I will have to say I'm probably a little more like Rich in my approach, where I'm going based off pretty recent stuff. I put a lot of emphasis for myself on the last 10 games, and not entirely so, but I let the last 10 games for each team kind of dictate where my rankings were going. So I'd say a little different from Chad. That being said, I already revealed my number 1 was Dallas, agreement there, and my number 2 is Winnipeg. So we're in agreement for the first 2.
Top 2. All right.
Yep. Number 3, I put Edmonton there. Number 4, and this is we're different. I put LA at number 4 for the power rankings.
Whoa, okay.
Yep. The way they've been winning a few games lately, and they've been a bit of a streak. So I'm going to put them at number 4.
I love it. That's good, man.
Yeah. Number 5, I put Nashville. So we're both pretty close on Nashville. Number 6, I put Vancouver. And number 7 and 8, this is where it's going to be crazy. I have Vegas at number 7 and Colorado at number 8. And I'm going to explain myself here. And Vegas in the past few games, especially since the last week, they've been kind of on a losing streak, and they were going to lose today. But I literally think it's a situation where, with the way they're playing right now, Colorado outchoked them. I'm not even kidding when I say that. I literally think that Colorado, the way they're playing right now, is that bad. And talk about me, like I literally a few weeks ago, maybe like 1 or 2 weeks ago, I was fully on the Avalanche, but like now they have not looked good recently. And part of my thought process there is they just lost 7-0 at home to the team they're playing in the playoffs, and they had a chance today to bounce back, but they blow a 3-0 lead. It's beyond the talent. Something is not right with that team right now. And going into the playoffs, they got 1 game left. They don't really have a chance to, right the ship before the playoffs. So if you're an Avalanche fan, you're pretty much saying, thank God we got that cup 2 years ago, because it's not looking great right now for them.
So we both are taking chances with our rankings here. I'm taking chances with having no respect for Vancouver. You don't really have a lot of respect for Vancouver either, but your bigger chance you're taking with your list is going your way. I got Colorado at number 3. You got Colorado at number 7.
And usually, did I not do the complete 180 on Colorado in the past 2 weeks?
It's okay. It's fair. Things happen. I'm astounded how greatly I changed my opinion on Colorado recently. Hey, one thing we know is NHL is unpredictable. The Stanley Cup playoffs are unpredictable. it's very likely that we will both be dead ass wrong.
Oh yeah.
But that's what we love about the Stanley Cup playoffs is stuff like this, because it is so open for any team to really do something. And that's why I've always been of the opinion that the win and get in and see what happens approach. And that's what the Preds did. I get it that some people have been really upset about how the Predators approach this year, and they might still be upset, even though this team is making the playoffs. But isn't that the whole point of sports and being competitive, is winning in the now and not, I mean, I don't think this front office has jeopardized the future.
I don't think
they've done a good job of doing both, actually. Walking in and chewing gum at the same time. So let's give a lot of love to Barry Trotz, first year GM, for doing both. The rebuild is the retool, or whatever you want to call it, has not been dismantled. A lot of scouting websites have the Predators as a top 10 prospect pool right now. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. That could change a little bit. There could be some trades and stuff. But, I mean, the Preds have largely not touched any of their prize prospects at all. So we're kind of getting the best of both worlds right now with this team. They made the playoffs. We get to have fun. We get to watch the Preds in the playoffs again. But we still have these prospects around that we can be excited about. So it's actually pretty awesome.
And part of it too, and part of my opinion as well with this kind of the approach that the front office has taken is say, well, part of the problem a lot of people have is, well, the Preds are never going to pick high enough in the draft for a big talent. Well, here's my thought process. You know, you could, guys like Gus Nyquist, even maybe Ryan O'Reilly in a few years, if you're in a situation where, like, man, we're a good team, but we're just kind of one or two pieces away from like really having a talent. Well, maybe you can use some of the guys, some of the prospects and guys you sign in free agency, maybe Ryan O'Reilly in a few years, to really trade for a guy who can really be a top player. And I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, because this is really an offseason topic and not going to go too far on a tangent. But based on the moves the Preds have made and what could be out there, I really think the Preds this offseason should make a play at Clayton Keller.
Oh,
but that's a conversation for another day.
I would like Stamkos, but that's just me. Yeah. That's just because I love the player. But all right. Well, that'll be for the future. All right. So good stuff there. There's our power rankings. Do with them what you will. Again, if you're watching after the live broadcast, you can still comment on the stream. Hit us up on X at Catfish Ice or on Facebook. So we would love to hear from you and give us your rankings. Always love talking rankings. Always fun. All right, we have a couple other things to touch on here. Let's break away from the Predators a little bit. We'll still tie them in maybe a little bit here. But we got a couple other NHL storylines to touch that are pretty major right now. Let's get into the Hart Trophy conversation. One of the most tightest races for the Hart Trophy in recent times. I mean, most of the time in recent times, it's been Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, right? Those two. This year, Nathan McKinnon's in it. You got some other guys, Nikita Kucherov, and there's all these arguments about who deserves it, and you can make an argument for each one. Let's start with Nikita Kucherov for a second. I'm down here in Tampa Bay Lightning country. I live in St. Petersburg, right across the bay. Nikita Kucherov is doing things that only Wayne Gretzky has done in recent times in terms of some of the accomplishments he's doing this season. The problem with Nikita Kucherov is he plays no defense. None whatsoever. He is not a two-way player. Let's go to Nathan McKinnon. Oh, let me also go to Kucherov on this. That actually helps his MVP odds. The last time I checked, and I would have to update it, but it's still probably around the same. Nikita Kucherov's point total to the next player behind him on the Tampa Bay Lightning is like 40-something points. The gap between Kucherov and the next guy on his team is crazy. It's Braden Point is the next player behind him, but it's like a 40-point gap. And the Lightning were very similar to the Predators going into this season in terms of a team that was maybe on the fringe, but if they missed the playoffs, no one would have been that surprised, especially with Vasilevsky being injured to start the season. So Kucherov's definitely been on a team that he had to carry a lot more than Nathan MacKinnon had to carry his own team. Now, Nathan MacKinnon is a much more well-rounded player.
Right.
MacKinnon does both sides of it. So you have that. And then, of course, you got Connor McDavid, the best player in the world. And then you've even got arguments for some other guys that are in there. Pasternak's popped up in there. Even Roman Josi has gotten some love in the Hart Trophy race. Max, who is your Hart Trophy pick?
I went with Kucherov, large in part, and a lot of reason because of what you said. And, I know the point gap obviously is huge, and these other teams, like I would say, my other two picks would be like the Avalanche or the Oilers, but like they're bona fide playoff teams. But Lightning are not, and Kucherov's really carrying that. But also, what gave him the edge for me, and even though he doesn't play a ton of defense, what gave me the edge over McDavid in this situation for me was that they're both at just shy of 100 assists on the year, but the goal scoring Kucherov's doing is crazy, and it's a step up above McDavid. So that's where my thought process was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really torn between MacKinnon and Kucherov. I'm not even like considering McDavid at this point. I'm between MacKinnon and Kucherov, and I wrestle with myself on both. Like at one moment, I'm like, no, it's MacKinnon because he's the better player all around. But then I'm like, but we're talking about most valuable player to their team. And how much would that team be hurt if that player was not on that team? That's how I look at it. And that's why I go to Kucherov slightly over MacKinnon. If you take Kucherov off the Lightning, they're sure as hell not making the playoffs. If you took MacKinnon off the Avalanche, maybe they wouldn't make the playoffs either, but I think they'd have a hell of a lot better chance than the Lightning. But it's really, really hard. That's why this Hart Trophy race is, and Kucherov is not a very well-liked player around the league. Like a lot of people do not like him because of the way he carries himself and all that stuff. But just looking at players on the ice now they play, and if we're really looking at MVP, I got to say Kucherov as well.
I agree.
I'm looking at the gap on his roster, and I'm looking at what's around him. And if you take that insane point production and goal production and power play production away, the Lightning are they're maybe a lottery team. They really are. They're maybe a lottery team this year. I think the Avalanche could survive without MacKinnon they couldn't survive a whole season without him. That would be bad. But I think they're good enough. They have enough top end talent around MacKinnon to survive without him for 10, 20 games and still be a really good team. So I think Kucherov should get it, but it is a really, really good race. It's going to be fun to watch to see who actually gets it.
Yeah, for sure.
And to close out episode 229 of Catfish and Ice, we've had a lot of viewers tonight and a lot of awesome comments. We appreciate all of you for watching. It's been a lot of fun on this random Sunday night live edition. It's the relocation news, Max, and you've really broken this down. I've really appreciated what you wrote on Predlines. It was, go read it right now. Max breaks down division realignment, playoff realignment, because we know the playoff system is jacked up.
Wretched
is a good word to use. Wretched's great. Yeah, I like that. So Max, first of all, let's clue everyone in. There might be people who just have been living under a rock. Maybe they went and lived in the woods for a few weeks and haven't had Wi-Fi for a while. So we'll catch them up. The Coyotes are almost certainly, it's not set in stone 100%. There is still some things that have to be worked out legally and officially and formally, but it looks like the Coyotes are going to Salt Lake City Super random. I know Salt Lake City's always been in the running to get a team, but there's no stadium deal set in Salt Lake City. I feel like they're moving one problem to another problem. Like, they're going to play in a basketball arena for who knows how long.
Well, I do know the Utah Jazz owners always wanted a hockey team, so there's definitely interest there.
There's no stadium deal in place, so they're basically moving from one city to another with still no stadium deal. For me, it makes no sense, but it's nothing against the fans who are excited about getting a team out there. I'm happy for those fans. I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me because where they're going to be playing is not hockey specific. And from everything I've understood, Mullet Arena, I don't care how few the capacity has been, Mullet Arena has been a really cool atmosphere to go see a hockey game. But either way, I know it's not ideal. You don't be playing in a hockey arena. And I know the owners of the Coyotes fumbled the football and they were awful in handling this. But it's a horrible situation all the way around. But with that relocation news, there's still a chance that when the NHL expands to 34 teams, Arizona could actually get an expansion team.
Why do we need to expand the league anymore? That's just, I don't get that.
But you have seen that, right, Max? They are talking about.
I've seen it, but
Arizona could relocate.
32 teams is enough. It's a perfect split. I don't get why you get 34 teams. I don't get it.
All right, so we got Buster updating us here. So Buster says $900 million already approved from taxpayers for new arena. New owner paying the rest. So thank you, Buster, for hopping in and updating us on that. That's good to know. Good stuff, Buster. Thank you. That's why we love our listeners, because they are educated and they know what they're talking about. So it looks like there is some contingencies and some things set up for the relocation to Salt Lake City. Good stuff there. Squeegee says, do 36. Expansion, do 36. Max is like, please no.
Yeah, I mean, I could be, maybe I'm just, not looking at it right. The way I kind of look at the expansion thing is that, like, you already have a league where you're already having viewership and ratings issues. But yeah, add more teams to this problem. I don't. Anyway.
Until the NHL can figure out how they're going to better market their brand.
Yeah.
You got fans who are scrambling to figure out how to watch their team unless they have ESPN Plus, but they can only watch ESPN Plus if they're out of market. It's great for me. So let me just give you guys a quick rundown in case you're new to the show. A lot of the longtime listeners know this, but I moved to St. Petersburg, Florida almost 2 years ago. And so I had to start watching my Preds on ESPN Plus. It's easy for me because I'm out of market. ESPN Plus is very affordable. I was
doing the same thing when I was at college at Wake Forest. It was beautiful.
So for me, it's great. I can watch the Preds on demand. I work a night job, so I have to. That's why I don't ever usually, unless it's a day off, comment on the game live, because it's usually because I'm at work paying the bills. But I get to watch the Preds on demand live. But if you're in the market and you don't have cable, you're screwed. It's really hard to watch the Preds or any of your favorite hockey teams.
Unless you're me and you pay for Bally Sports Plus's very terrible $200 a year service. It's awful, but I do it because I want to watch the Preds and I love them that much. So
yes. So the NHL's got to figure out that part of it. They've got to figure it. And then they put these games on NHL Network. And I'm not saying that the people who work for NHL Network are bad people. I like NHL Network. I think they do really awesome coverage. The problem is I don't have cable, and so it's hard to reach NHL Network.
You literally can't. I don't know anyone who can watch games on NHL Network these days.
So I've missed Preds games this year when they went NHL Network exclusive. I was like, all right, I guess I don't get to watch this game. So the NHL's got to figure that part out about it. If they're going to, especially in 2024, with all the streaming availability and with all these different things coming to light, if the NHL wants to expand, they need to figure that out. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So good stuff there. But let's talk about realignment, Max.
Yep.
Just break it down quick for us.
Yeah.
Well, I know you can't do it super quick, but because we want to hear it. But like, I know you got different divisions and all
Yep.
that stuff.
I'll try and give like a Cliff Notes version of what I got. So basically, what I want the NHL to do, because look, 8 divisions is just no, excuse me, 8 teams in a division is just way too many teams. The Central Division in the Western Conference has become one of the most nonsense conferences in hockey. There's scheduling issues all the time. Like you're literally, and one thing I touch on this year, the Preds, because of the scheduling, the Preds play a team like the St. Louis Blues 3 times. Yet they play teams in the Eastern Conference twice. Like that's messed up to me. But anyway, here's what and also the playoff format is ridiculous with the way it's focused on divisions and not necessarily like the 1 versus 8 setup. Anyway, so what I suggested for the NHL is you do an NFL style approach with 2 conferences, of course, 4 divisions per conference and 4 teams in each division. And the way it turned out was you play 6 divisional games per year, 4 other in-conference games a year, and 1 game and 1 game each for every out-of-conference team. So there's clearly a structure on how it's scheduled. There's a for the playoffs, it's a traditional 1v8 setup with the division winners getting the top 4 seeds, so you can still reward division winners, and then the 5 versus 8 seeds and other order of points. So that's easy enough. But also for these divisions, so I still want an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference. And part of the thing is there's a lot of people who think the Preds need to move to the Eastern Conference, even under the current situation. I just don't see that, because the thing is, who are you replacing? It's either Detroit or Columbus, and they're in the Eastern time zone, actually. Like at least the Preds are in the Central time zone, so that's a little easier to justify. So anyway, I'll give you each of my divisions. I'm not going to, even if I will say, if you want to get a full explanation for each division, you can read my article at Predlines. It's my most recent article.
Yeah, go read it. Yeah.
In the Eastern Conference, I had a Northeast division with Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and Boston. My Metropolitan, and I had my other division, the East Metropolitan, I had the New York Rangers, New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, and Buffalo.
I love keeping those 4 together. That's a great division. That's awesome.
Yeah. I did it on purpose. I had another division called the Atlantic Division with Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Carolina. And then my Central East Division with Florida, Tampa Bay, Columbus, and Detroit. In my Western Conference, I had my Northwest Division, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle. Pacific, I had Anaheim, LA, San Jose, and Vegas. This is my fun division, the Scenic Division. I had Colorado, Utah, Minnesota, and Winnipeg. And in the Central West, I had Chicago, St. Louis, the Preds, and Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, there are some opposing opinions who want the Preds in the East.
Yep. But I just couldn't figure out a way to really do it.
To make it work. It's hard to make it work.
It is. But the question is, like, if you want, like, I honestly don't, I have a little bit of an issue, mainly because I would hate to lose the divisional matchups with St. Louis, Chicago, and Dallas. But like, my main question is, if you put the Preds in the East, who are you moving to the West? Something's got to give there, so I don't see that being feasible.
It would be really, really hard to make it work. Yeah. We've always kind of said, like, how cool would it be for the Preds to be back in the East, maybe renew the rivalry with the Red Wings, but you never want to mess with old school rivalries, and the Preds are just now starting to build some new rivalries with, like, Dallas, and St. Louis has always been fun, and I think the NHL needs to be very, very cautious about messing with that kind of stuff. So I think the Preds moving them to the East would be a very big risk for the league to take, because you would have to introduce the Preds to markets that never really cared about the Preds. So who are you going to put them in a division with if you put them in the East?
I assume it'd be with Carolina, Florida, and Tampa Bay, which I think that would make sense.
It could be fun. You could make a Southern division.
Like, I saw one where they'd be like the Southeast.
Yeah, you can make a Southeast division. In a division with Carolina would be an instant rivalry.
Oh yeah,
from that playoff series. I still feel like it's kind of a rivalry. You only play the team twice a year, and it still feels like it's a rivalry. So that I could see it work, but it's really hard to to really make everything. I like your division lineup. I really do. It makes everybody happy, and it's not going to be perfect. There's not going to be a perfect
Not going to be
format.
perfect. And I had some decisions to make too. And this is not something that, and I've been kind of toying with it over like the past month, honestly. Like I've had this idea for a month before I wrote about it. And like I've been, especially the Western Conference, I did some mixing and matching. Like I did not like make any like easy decision there.
So look at that. The Preds will only move to the East after Atlanta returns.
Interesting.
So if the NHL expanded to Atlanta, Buster brings up a good point here. If the NHL expanded to Atlanta and they did it right, and they can make it work in Atlanta, that would be a great rivalry that you could build down the road, Nashville, Atlanta. That would be fun. So there are possibilities, but those are possibilities we can't talk about right now because we don't know.
Right.
But yeah, Buster, good point there. Exactly. A Southeast Division, Carolina, Florida, Tampa, Nashville, Atlanta. That would be fun.
That would be real fun.
So, I mean, we could see what happens in the future. Squeegee Dude, our buddy CJ says, I said, if you want to try to revive old teams, expand to Houston, Atlanta, Quebec City, and a second Ottawa team. And you can make but Squeegee Dude also says, rumors for a second Ottawa team could work, but their first team needs to actually play well.
Yeah.
A second Toronto team would work nicely.
That's one city where I would see in Canada that could be having a second team.
You know how much fans would riot around the lower 48?
I guess you're right. I can't say I think they would get support. It's all the Maple Leafs over there.
But yes, Houston gets a lot of love to be an expansion city because they got a big enough market. You make them an instant rival with Dallas. I've got buddies from Dallas, and they literally hate Houston.
One other thing that potentially worked.
The Houston-Dallas rivalry is legit in every walks of life.
Maybe Kansas City, you get a rivalry with Kansas City, St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, there's always possibilities. I mean, I'm not crazy about the NHL expanding either. I'm right
there
with you.
I've made that clear.
But if they're going to do it and it does happen, then you got to make it geographically possible, and you got to start building these rivalries. I do think hockey is slowly – I would like it to be faster than what it is, but hockey is gradually becoming more and more popular. I got friends all the time who say, I like hockey a lot, but I want to learn it. And I want to learn it a little bit more. And I got one story, cool story, just happened tonight before I went live. So I'm coming home here in St. Petersburg, stopped for a beer at a local brewery after work, and met a couple who is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Oh, wow. They are snowbirds. They come down here and they live in Florida for part of the year, and then they go back home. The equivalent of a snowbird, as a lot of people know, snowbirds are the people who travel from the north and stay in Florida or tropical environments for half the year or part of the year. Anyway, started talking sports with them. Got into hockey, and they bring up the Milwaukee Admirals. They're like, we have a minor league team we really love, the Milwaukee Admirals. Naturally, I respond and say, well, I'm from Nashville. I'm a big Predators fan. So we ended up talking and having this great conversation. And I asked them, I go, so are there a lot of Predators fans in Milwaukee since you guys don't have a team? And two things they say. One, yes, there's a lot of Predators fans up here. Two, we hate anything that comes out of Chicago.
Yes.
Mic drop. That's why we love Milwaukee.
Love that.
And I love that the relationship between Nashville and Milwaukee when it comes to hockey, minor league, and professional team has been so ironclad. They've been together for so long. It was a great conversation. These people were awesome. And they told me, Chad, you got to figure out a way to get up to Milwaukee, see a Milwaukee Admirals game. Also, I grew up a Packers fan before the Titans moved here. So we had a great conversation talking about my childhood being a Packers fan. And they're like, you got to figure out a way next year to come up to Milwaukee, see an Admirals game, see a Packers game during the same trip, stay in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is near Milwaukee, and figure out a way to get into Green Bay. That's a little bit more difficult because Green Bay is still a really small town, even though they got the Packers. But great conversation to springboard me into this episode tonight. So shout out to that amazing couple that I had talked Milwaukee Admirals with.
That's amazing.
And before we close out, CJ is, of course, a big Admirals fan. He lives up there. He says, yes, you do, Chad. I can give you the VIP tour. I'm going to make it up there.
Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee almost a year ago, and I didn't get to see CJ. I was very upset.
And Predemption says the affiliation with the Admirals has been there since day one. It was so cool talking to local Milwaukee natives who are Admirals fans. And they were telling me, CJ, real quick before we close out, CJ, if you're still on here, because I know you know this, they were telling me about a promotion where they send a human hockey puck into a bunch of pucks or into the net. And they like strap you in and they shoot you into the net or something like that. CJ, can you validate that? This is what this couple was telling me about. They were telling me that the Milwaukee Admirals do a great job doing all these fan promotions to get fans to come to the games. They said one of the things they do, yes, the human slingshot.
There it is.
Yes, they were telling me about that. They strap you in. I want to go up there just for that. I mean, that sounds so much fun. Human slingshot. There you go. All right. That's how we're closing out episode 229. Shout out to the Milwaukee Admirals. Shout out to the Predators. Shout out to all of you for this Sunday night live edition. We're coming up on 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long time, but it was worth it. It's a playoff bound edition, so we're going 2 hours tonight. Take care, everybody. We will see you very, very soon. Next time we get the chance for episode 230. We're heading to the playoffs. We'll see you then. It's been Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, your host of Catfish and Ice. Everyone take care.
See you later.